Boom, and we're live. Ah, surprise! Hello and welcome everybody
Hello.
to the Wide World of Warhammer. With us today, we got the most well-behaved bloke in 40k. I mean, I can't disagree at all. Like, there's been no dramas or accusations or anything like that with this man. Dale Sumner, how you doing, buddy?
Good, mate. We might even get into a little bit of that later. I'm currently sharing this on Australian ITC. So keep rambling. Say more nice stuff.
Keep
about me,
rambling,
mate.
keep rambling. Nice. The social media manager as well. But you should add that to your post handle. I mean, we got the co-CEO of Down Under 40k, social media manager, handsome bloke, beer connoisseur. I mean, what else can we add on there? Drukhari, fellow Drukhari enthusiast.
Yeah, from afar. I'm enthused from afar these days.
Father of one, all Newcastle born and bred. Maybe, I don't know.
No, Sydney born, but
Sydney
got
born
out
and
of there.
bred.
Got out of there early enough, so I don't claim it. That's for sure.
Fair enough. So we're chatting with Dale Sumner. So for people who don't know, where Dale's one of the, I guess, founders of Down Under 40k, a person who helped establish the group per se, and also talking about, I guess, someone who hasn't played a lot recently, but how you sort of stay involved in the Warhammer community from afar and like without being physically on the tabletop there per se. So just talking about all things there, and also just get behind the scenes of Down Under 40k, learn some fun stories along the way and the history of things. But before we get dive into the deeper things, so you mentioned before born in Sydney and then moved out pretty quickly, but like how long have you been playing 40k for, Dale, for people who don't know, and where maybe a bit about yourself, honestly?
40k. So I did the classic, got into it as a teen, just played locally with my mate back in Bulahdelah, for anyone who knows where that is, about a town of 1,000, about an hour north of Newcastle. So we just had a little crew. It was kind of like me and another bloke and his brother just played a little bit, and then we got a bit of a bigger crew. But like I don't think we ever played a full game properly at any point. And then got out of the game for like until I was like 28. So got out when I was about 18, when everyone else moved to university. They're all a year older than me. Then got back in when I was about 28 because the missus I've been carting it around for years and years. All these Dark Elder models in my from house to house, and my missus had never seen me play 40k, and she's like, either you get rid of it or you start playing. And she's obviously regretted that for the rest of the time, because I got back into it and got back into it heavy. Got back in about middle of 8th edition. So basically when the Drukhari Codex dropped in 8th edition. And for anyone that doesn't know, that was an extremely well-written Drukhari book. It was just as flavoursome as the 9th edition, but way more balanced, but still strong. Still, like, you could still get results with it. So that was a really good codex. And then, yeah, that's how I got back into the hobby. A bit more about myself. I don't know. Forever 26, father of one. I don't know. I just trying to get along in life, just trying to survive. That's basically it at this point.
Aren't we all, Dale? I mean, when you mentioned Bulahdelah, funny enough, I actually know that place because my wife loves the service station there for whatever reason. She has like childhood memories of stopping at the service station there and getting the wedges. There's like a Wedges Supreme. And every time we drive
from
up,
the mobile.
Yes, for the mobile, it's amazing. It's always consistently good. So it's become I'd say family tradition per se.
I reckon if I mention the other the hot stop is the bakery there. A lot of people that I don't know, like I meet and I'm like, oh, you're Bulahdelah, and they're like, oh, the bakery. So they love the pies and the bread. So a few listeners might get that reference.
There we go. Oh, there we go. The travel tips. There you go. So if you're traveling up to like central in New South Wales, drop by Bulahdelah and get some wedges. Good truck stop. And you said, yeah. So you collected Drukhari. But is that the only army you play, or have you got other models for other armies?
So just Drukhari. I first started with Eldar when I was younger. That was a little bit too easy. That was just star cannon spam, and I just kept absolutely mincing my mate who was playing Tyranids. And then I moved over to Drukhari because that was back in the day when they were the hard army to play. You got them in the box versus the Marines and were severely underpointed. So they had a reputation of being hard to play. So I picked up them, started playing them. And then when I got back into the game, that's all I've been collecting since. So I do run the Incarn and like run them as Yunari or part Yunari when it makes sense, because the Incarn is sick. But that's about it. So I don't really play with anything else. That's kind of a combination of time, like getting more armies together, money. I don't have the the expendable cash to be dropping thousands on meta armies. So, and I honestly don't have an interest in, like, you could have anything. You'd be like, Dale, would you like this army for a really, really good price? And I wouldn't even bother like look at it sideways. For some reason, a lot of because you play it when you're younger, and then kind of the vibes or a lot of the context of the army just travels through edition and edition. So in my head, I know what a Cabalite's meant to do. I know what a Witch is meant to do. And it's just a lot easier than learning anything new. I'm just lazy. I don't want to learn anything new. There you go. You got that.
The truth comes out eventually. It's like, oh, because I have the expendable cash, it takes a lot. It's like, well, I just actually don't want to learn it realistically. But yeah, like I guess the identity of the units and the factions sort of carries over from edition to edition. Like when they design the game from edition to edition, like you'll learn things like, oh, you have an idea like witches, they should be good in melee. They're not going to randomly next edition, or they shouldn't be in a good game, become the best shooting unit in the game, right? They've got that identity and that belief anyway, so that makes sense. What is it about the Drukhari you love? Do you just love how they operate? Do you like some, I don't know what's sadistic, but like some torturous elves, or what is it about the Drukhari that you love?
Are you asking me about my kinks, Sam?
Yeah.
Is that what?
Are you a kinky man? You say you get out your kinks all the time?
Not particularly. I did play with the mandrakes back in the day when they literally look like bondage guys, but not nothing to do with that. Probably play style. Traditionally, they've been well, back in the day they were like boats and guns fast. Last edition and edition before, a little bit more close combat. The model range is really nice, I'd have to say. That's one thing. I could never go over to Eldar with all the absolute trash models there. And even the models, because Dark Eldar has a pretty dedicated crew of players. Like there's a lot of guys like me that only play Dark Eldar. And any models that are still resin or just not up to chuff, there is like a million conversions. Like, so all my grotesques are not, because the grotesques are still resin one piece, like the same guy doing the same crap. So all mine are converted from crypt horrors and stuff like that. So like where the models aren't good enough, there's already answers to fix it. And I just like the vibe. I just can't be bothered. I can't be bothered doing anything new.
No, fair enough. So obviously you started a bit of 8th edition. Was it from there? Like, did you just start playing the game, and then along the way did you try to start running events, or like what was the start then leading up into, I guess, the creation of Down Under 40K per se?
So I started getting my army together and all that, and then I started posting on the local Facebook pages around Newcastle, just asking for games, which was quite hilarious because the Facebook algorithm decided to alert my non-nerd mates what was going on. So, you can post into groups and they're not private. So all my soccer mates are like, what the hell are you doing, mate? And I'm just like, oh, don't even talk to me about it. But so started doing that. I got a hit back from a local guy. He started hitting me up. We started doing games at Good Games Newcastle. And that was like when I said Drukhari was the 8th edition codex just coming out. So Ravagers were red hot with the Archon. What else is red hot? Nine Talos was red hot. Just they had some good models. So obviously I bought all the best stuff, and then I just took them to like really casual RTTs and got really good results. just the cheesiest bloke ever. And then I started playing with Ben Way and his boys. I met them at one of those tournaments. We got into the little gaming group called the Wergs. Almost none of us game anymore, but we're all still in the same group. We've all got families and stuff now. But shout out the Wergs. So we started playing casually there, and then me and Ben kind of got the cojones up to go to GG Maitland and play in the dreaded ITC tournaments, which was, for people that don't understand, that was like a very big leap back in the day. The difference between a a GW mission and a GW events run by the local Newcastle GG compared to going to the ITC ones out in Maitland was a huge jump, or at least in our mind it was. So that's when we started going there. And then from there, basically Down Under 40K just started because we just wanted to grow a community and grow resources within in the community, like namely terrain. So that was kind of like an avenue. I can go a little bit deeper into the Down Under 40K history if you like.
Go for it. Let's go deep dive. Let's get the Wikipedia deep dive. Let's go. Let's go on a story time with Dale.
So initially it was just So frankly how it happened was we were playing at GG Maitland. This is 8th edition, and I heard some people complaining about the quality of the terrain. And this is another one that people might not understand. You only have to go back 4 years, and it was not uncommon to play on a board with 2 lots of trees and some rocks. Like, that was it. And if you got like one building in the middle, that was considered like pretty red hot. So this isn't a knock of anyone that was running maps like that back then, but like I remember people saying like, "Oh, it's a bit of a bowling ball here," and I was like, and I was only very new to the community, and there was like some older heads that were saying like the train's just not good enough, and I was like, well, why don't we do something about it? So I started 3D printing terrain. I bought a 3D printer, and then I started 3D printing terrain. You can still see parts of it at GG these days, I'm pretty sure, or maybe it all got destroyed, I don't know. And for anyone that knows that, like, that's not very cost effective. You're still dropping like 100, 150 a board in just by the time you buy the resin, print it up, do all the other stuff and paint it. So in my head, I needed to create something that made revenue that we could pump back into the community. So that's when Down Under 40K came as an idea. And I listened to back in the day, what was Frankie and Reese? What were they? They were
Signals from the front line.
Yeah, Signals. So it was a Signals back in the day. They did a big special about a huge Down Under 40K league that runs out of California. And I listened to that and I was like, oh, this sounds pretty red hot. And then that sounded like a great avenue to go down because obviously GG was already running the local RTTs. So I was like, oh, well, no one's running the league. So I posted in the competitive chat. This had some local big dogs from the scene there. I said, hey, I want to start like a 40K league. Does anyone want to get involved? And the only person that responded was Ben. So we started a league from there. And it got pretty popular pretty fast because that was I think that was just the start of 9th, it basically kicked off. And I think within 3 seasons, so that's 3 lots of 8 weeks, we had like 60 players in Maitland playing in the league. So it kicked off pretty fast at that point. And that was kind of the origin story of Down Under 40K. It was, if you look at our old promo stuff, it was DU 40KL because we were Down Under 40K league for an early while there until we rebranded to a very original Down Under 40K.
There you go. Yeah, so the whole San Diego league, like San Diego, like I know it talked about it also on I just blanked on the name, but anyways, like, yeah, the Frontline Gaming Network per se talked about this league, and all that jazz, and it's a very popular idea. Like, basically over 8 weeks, you play a number of games whenever you can organize it. Then each league you can go up and down. So yeah, that's the epitome. So how many leagues at any one time did you guys have? Like, you grew from there. I know you branched out from Maitland, and you did other regions.
Yeah, so we had the Maitland one, and then we had like a Southwest Sydney one for a little while there. The Maitland one, like I said, grew up to around 60 players. I think we had a 1K and a 2K at the same time. So if you add them together, 60 players. I'm not sure how big the Sydney one got. Feud was running that for us. But the one thing you'll learn about leagues, and it's why, and we had a North Sydney league as well. I've already forgot. We had a North Sydney league. So we had 3 leagues at some point. And the North Sydney league, they had a fair few players. They're still fanging for it. It'll come back soon one day, guys. But the one thing anyone that runs a league knows is it is super time intensive. Just at a basic data input level, and just managing like 60 nerds. It's do we have a Central Coast League? Oh, there we go. Oh, my brain's going to mush. Ben's in the chat saying we had a Central Coast League. I guess Pistol Pete might have ran one for a little while there, but they only the North Sydney League I can see getting kicked off again at this point because it's very very resource intensive to run leagues. It's kind of going to be the only thing you do. I think that's the thing that happens in San Diego. There's like these guys, and that's what they do. They do leagues. Whereas once we started doing other stuff, it got a bit harder to do it. So, but yeah, that was the initial runs. Yeah, so we kind of spread over the New South Wales region.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so, like from there, so as well, like I think along the way, you started running like RTTs and stuff like that, and you started you guys are your own podcast. So the OG Down on the 40K podcast. Like, what made you guys want to do that? Like, what was the reasoning behind that? So obviously, for people who are watching on screen, you got quite the setup, and you got the pop filter and the microphone and everything.
This is the $40 Kmart special, which you can probably tell from the quality that's coming out of the setup. But so the podcast was actually interesting because that got started basically in line with the league. So that was like right to start with. And the reason we decided to start a podcast is to add a bit of legitimacy to what me and Ben were doing. At that point, me and Ben had only been to like, I want to say 3 or 4 RTTs each. So like we were super new in the scene and we were like, hey, we want to do this. And like the way the league works, everyone has to pay $15 and then 85% of that goes back in prize support to the league players. So first, second, third, and each pod get money. And then the 15% goes back into like running costs and all that type of stuff. So terrain, I don't know if anyone knows, but it costs money to run a podcast. So that was the first thing it went back into, like editing, all that type of stuff. And so the podcast was just to legitimize what we were doing. So we were like, hey, we're random guys. We want you to give us $15 over PayPal. Or also we've got a podcast. So it kind of like humanized us, let people know what we were about. Otherwise, at that point, we were just 2 random dudes, like just like posting on Facebook pages. So the whole idea, and it worked. Like the amount of crazy guests we got on in the first little while, well, we only had like 20 or 30 listeners. Like we had Chris Wright on within a few months, and he was like one of the best players in Australia. So like it worked. It worked really well, and then it's kind of grown into what's happened. Well, like we're kind of on like a tendril of whatever that was.
Yeah, so you set up your own network per se, and like a foundation for future things. And yeah, I mean, Chris Wright's on from your own backyard per se, so good to have him on, and I guess use as an advertising platform, right? And you got D6 Designs AU, but the Dice King himself came on pretty early as well, so got some sponsors and all that jazz. You're looking very professional very quickly.
Yeah, a big part of the look is Pete the Pigeon. He's got a lot of skill when it comes to. Actually, I think he's got a really good eye for art. So any like promotion design, basically Pete come up with that. So that does help a lot.
Good old Pete the Pigeon. So from there, you guys, I know, when did you guys run your first GT, and like what was the growing pains for going up into a GT sort of status, and then I know eventually you ran a major.
Okay, yeah. So I'll take us back even one step because you asked about it before, but I skipped over it. So the RTT. So the way we started doing the RTTs is I found a WTC template of their ruins. So like the 3 stories and the 2 stories, and I started 3D printing them like a madman. So I could do like 2 or 3 floors in like I did it in 12-hour shifts. So you did the floors, you did the sidewall and the sidewall. So in 36 hours, I could print 1 ruin. And I just like to do that on repeat before work, after work, before work, after work. So I ended up printing 8 WTC tables. And that's how we got our first lot of terrain for our RTTs. So, and shout out to all the boys, Tong, Damo, Carl, they all come around and painted it. The one thing that you'll learn about me is you paying attention to Down Over 40K is I actually have very few skills. So I rely on a lot of people to help me out a lot. So I had my boys come over. I set them up just behind me on the table, and I sat them down at like 8 a.m. in the morning and fed them coffee and then Dominoes and breakfast. And I just never let them stand up for like 8 hours straight. And I was just like running around doing all the coffees and all that. And anyway, so that's how we got all that painted. That's how we run an RTT. So that was like the process of that. One thing I'm kind of, I don't know if proud's a word, but like one thing that Down Under 40K has done is it's grown very gradually. Outside of me putting in lump sums for resin and the 3D printers, and I think Ben put in some money for boards real early on, like nearly everything we've got our hands on has been gradually, like we've had the money to pay for it. None of us has put like $2,000 down in advance and then had to pay ourselves back. So that's kind of like, that's where the necessity for the 3D printing come from. It was just the cheapest way to do it, to do it well. So that's how we grew to the RTT level. Then, we went up to, we helped run, GG Maitland run on Iron Man GT.
Oh no, so yeah, Iron Man, yeah.
Yeah, Iron Man GT. So that was a fundraiser. That was kind of our first experience of running a bigger event. And I think that, I couldn't even tell you what it was, maybe 30 players. And that Peter Pigeon actually won that one back in the day. I think that was before he was part of the crew. And then we decided to run our own GT called the Madawi GT, out of Ben's formerly lovely venue, the Madawi Social. And growing pains for that. Oh, I think it took us like hilariously, I say, we didn't put any lump sum money into into what we do, but a bit of behind the scenes inside baseball, we did owe the Social about $2,000 for about a year. I don't know if I meant to tell anyone that, but yeah. So we had quite a bill to rent. I think it might have been the food bill. We took quite a few RTTs to pay that back. So there you go. That's how you have to run that's the growing pain of stepping up, Sam. You owe a company a lot of money for a long time.
Hope they didn't charge too much interest.
No, they were very good about it. And at no point did Ben send any heavies around to my place to sort me out. But growing pains. So the biggest growing pain for anyone that's run events is, they would know, is just literally infrastructure. So mats and ruins. By the time you put, or even tabletops to put your stuff on, by the time you buy a tabletop, a mat, and all your scenery, you're looking at, I would say, if you got really good deals, you're probably looking at minimum of 200 per table. So you upgrade that to, I think our first GT was 40 players, and that was from running 16-man GTs. So whatever that mass is, 24 divided by 12 per table times that. So like that's $2,500 to step up to that level if you don't do it gradually. So that was just the biggest one. And also just putting all the stuff together. It does take a lot of inhaling of toxic fumes early on to get everything painted. So that was kind of the big push. Also just getting the legitimate, say it for me, Sam.
Legitimacy.
There we go. Legitimacy within the community to sell that many tickets. Our first GT was very hard to sell tickets. So that was one of the hurdles as well.
Yeah, sure. So, but like from there, like you grew and grew and grew. So like just grew that reputation over time. Like you ran consistent events with quality terrain at a good price, and people knew they could come up to the event and expect good things. So I was just growing that over time.
Yeah, I think the biggest step for us in legitimacy, as far as people understanding the level of events we were trying to put on and did put on, because when we ran that first GT, I knew we were going to put the best boards in New South. Like, I know it sounds a bit cocky or whatever, but we were putting that much effort into the terrain. We were going to do the best boards New South Wales had seen post COVID. I can't comment on anything before then, but like that's how much we got, like all this terrain from the Adelaide boys, put in a lot of effort. But the biggest step for the rest of Australia recognizing what we were trying to achieve and what we were doing was Benny Way, Aussie Ben, and his networking and his involvement with as New South Wales. What is he? New South Wales rep. And then his connections to the Aussie reps. And then we managed to get our hands on the ANZTC, I think it was 2 years ago. So that is, if anyone that doesn't know, an 8-man team tournament where all the states from Australia fly their 8-man teams to wherever the event is at. And we managed to get our hands on it. And that was at the Madawi Social. So, and that was the first time ever it was run on legit WTC maps. So they weren't perfect, but they were like, I would say 90 to 95% the WTC maps. You played on that one, Sam, didn't you? Would you?
Yeah, exactly. So it was very good, like as good as you can get. I can attest to you guys. I'm not like blowing smack at your ass, but you guys set up the terrain. There was always premier stuff. So I knew beforehand I played at the New South Wales Masters, and like you guys had the terrain almost tip top shape, and like when it was early 9th edition and people were complaining about terrain, like so many people are doing player place terrain because they just didn't have the stuff for it or to make it work or to fit what the FLG style was or WTC style or make enough ruins and stuff like that. But you guys reached that pinnacle that I guess the top levels very quickly. But yeah, as you said, for the ANZ TC, which was 9 months into not 9 months, like less than a year into 9th edition, maybe it's a year and a half.
It was about 9 months. But the fact that a bunch of people that they kind of had to come to a tournament, so like all the best players in Australia had to come because we were hosting it. So the fact that Ben got us to like run it was like that was it. So like we had the best players in all the states come down, and a lot of them were now like repeat travelers to events we run. So that was kind of the big step up, if that makes sense.
No, more than fair. And so then from there, I know afterwards you had a major. Was that like just another step up and like slowly, gradually building up the funds? Because it's like almost double the size of a GT, right?
Yeah, so we went from the GT to the ANZ TC, and then we went to the major. So it was 40 people, 60 people, then 100 people. So I think 100 might be the sweet spot for us, to be honest. The Uprising Adelaide guys are always looking to build, but the dynamic that they have that we don't have is that Napier makes all their terrain. So it's whatever the raw material is, plus how much effort he's willing to put in, which is a huge amount of effort, by the way. I don't know, like he's an absolute madman. But like we don't have that dynamic that we can just jump 50 players every time. I think the 100 might be the sweet spot for us for now, and maybe grow a little bit. But that investment again was pretty huge again. I think we spent a bit more inside baseball. I think we spent like $2,500 on terrain, like literally just the flat pack terrain to step it up to that major level. So right now I just kind of want to like consolidate what that is and like just run events at that level, so I don't have to spend $2,500 again.
No, more than fair.
Says the bloke that just spent. I think I keep talking. I get a little bit. I know people probably hate it, but we just spent $1,500 on see-through acrylic bases. So
yeah,
rude,
wow.
Rude. Damn you, DW.
No. Oh well, hopefully you're set up again for at least the next 2 years, right? Or 2.5, 3 years until the next edition comes out.
Extend the editions, please. I need longer editions.
To recoup the costs. Oh well, like you'll make it work. So we'll setting that standard yet again. So, any funny stories you want to share along the way of the Down to 40K journey so far that you have, or any funny or like stressful stories?
Stressful stories. Basically, just every big event is a bit of the weather is a stress. Every event, you always plan about because terrain you have to do it outside. I think, for the major, me and Ben were spray painting all this stuff under his veranda. I don't know how we got away with it. My missus would not have cans just like just outside the door, but we were just spray painting all this stuff under verandas. That was pretty wild. Funny stories. There's just photos of me all over the internet. That's not really Down Under 40K specific. That's more just tournament fun. Just when you travel away, it just gets a little bit rowdy. Let's put it that way. But there's some good ones.
There's some good fun. There are some pictures, that's for sure.
Just join the Discord and I'll share more. Nothing that needs to be repeated on video.
Nothing that you could be incriminated for per se, or like doxed online for.
Yeah, that's it.
Easily enough. So what's been like, I guess, your highlight for Down to 40K so far? Like, what's been the biggest thing that you've loved about it all?
So the highlights is in like single events was obviously just whenever a big event's done, just like people coming from all over Australia to your event, leaving happy. That's always great. So that's always good. But lately it's kind of been the fact that Down Under 40K, it's turned from what it was originally, which was just like running events and all this stuff, to now we've got such a bit of a machine together at this point that we can help people. It's a vehicle to get stuff done now. So Pommy, Ben, one of the proudest things, and it basically has nothing to do with me, Pommy Ben runs an extremely successful RTT in Sydney. He nearly sells out every month, 30 players in French's Forest. And that all just come because he come to us and he said, I want to run an RTT. And we're like, all right, well, you find the venue, we'll give you all the terrain. So I'm like, not so much a highlight for me, but the highlight for Down Under 40K is Pommy Ben is just absolutely murdering it. You like yourself, like the network, like just people being able to come to us and say, this is what we want to achieve. And then we can like, I don't know, we either got the infrastructure or the clout or the reputation to kind of push it forward. So that's kind of like a highlight, I'd say.
Yeah, sure. That's more than fair. And that's great to hear that you can have that success. Is there any like lowlights or any like real bottom out moments? You're like, oh my God, why am I doing this per se? Or that you can share or you don't incriminate per se?
No, so I guess one of the, like I said, at this, for our first GT, it was really hard to sell tickets. So we had this event planned towards the end of the year and we had the date set. We locked it in at the social and all that. And then I was bugging the boys. I was like, we need to get this date out. We need to get this date out. Like it needs to be in the zeitgeist. And then Overwatch did their traditional GT at Maitland. And it was about 2 weeks before us, or maybe even a week. I think we shifted a week to try and make it work. And for anyone that doesn't know, Overwatch are some OG boys, and like they've been putting on events in New South Wales for years and years and years. Got a great reputation, deservedly. And the fact that like there was such a clash, I think we had rented out this space that could hold 60 players, roughly. Yeah, between the two rooms we could do 60 players. And we sold on our first run of tickets, 26 tickets. That's all we could move. And I was like, oh, this sucks. So we ended up grinding hard, and that was the one we got to about 40. But like that was a pretty down moment, I think it was. Just a reality of not moving tickets is not nice. The other ones is me just getting way too pissed and just making a fool of myself at the social. Just like making Ben's missus just regret that I even exist in her life, basically. So that's I think it was anyways, I've learned lessons. The lessons have been learned.
Have you actually learned the lessons, or you going to repeat them over and over again?
One of the lessons was Dale's not allowed cocktails, and so I had one cocktail on the whole of the major after day one with Ben's permission. So Ben's like I think it was Ben's missus' permission. I asked someone permission if I was allowed a cocktail. So that's a lesson learned. And I did not dry heave all night in Ben's lounge room. So there you go. There's a lesson.
There we go. slowly learning and getting there. But it's safe to say the Down on 40K, the OG podcast, it's sort of been a bit quieter in the forefront. Is there any plans for a revival or some episodes on the horizon, or it's sort of you're figuring things out?
We were meant to do one 2 weeks ago, but the laptop cord for this laptop that we're recording on right now died, and I had a little dongle. I lost a dongle. It was dongle gate. So we were meant to do. Me and Ben are going to do one very soon. Just kind of like it's going to be called the world's latest WTC review. So we're just gonna or two mates having a chat. I think it is basically just we kind of haven't. We've had a little bit of chat about what's going on, like stuff that needs to be done, but we've not even sat down and had a good chat about how the WTC was for him. So the plan is just to turn that chat into a podcast. I think definitely it's going to be, I would love to go monthly. That's my plan, monthly. And I've even got ideas of not maybe the OG. I want to start a type of interview podcast. I've already lined up my first guest. So there you go. So a little bit more content on that side.
Woohoo! Happy days. So on the sort of plans and predictions per se, but plans and forecasting, I guess maybe per se. Is there any big future things or ideas for Down to 40K as a whole, from both, I guess, the coverage per se or event size? Like, is there anything that the viewers or listeners can maybe look forward to?
Well, I think I'm talking to the man that can maybe answer that. What do you got planned, mate? You are the heart and soul of the content creation at this point. What have you got planned? Would you like to interview 12 countries in 3 weeks again? Like, what are the crazy shit you got planned?
No, I'm good, man. I don't need to do that anymore. they'll learn along the way. We'll take it one step at a time. One step at a time. We've got a bunch of ideas and ideas fundamentally, and then we'll take it one step at a time. So yeah,
I know that Alex, the Greek, and Michael are going to be doing a big review podcast. We've got 3 GTs in a row in New South Wales currently. So Battle in the Bush, Moab, and Pantheon. Pantheon's this weekend, so we've got 2 down. So they're going to do a huge coverage of all 3 GTs, which would be great. Same with Alex, the same with Ben. The WTC is just such a time sink. So like they've kind of been out of action for like probably 2 or 3 months, to be honest, with the amount of work those boys have to put in. So they're only just coming back online. That would kind of be it so far. But yeah, just regular uploads from everyone would be nice. So at least three from each of the podcasts, like franchises or whatever you want to call them.
Sure, no, fair enough. But so no another down on the 40K major planned or any big events again?
Event-wise, yeah. So the plan will be to do a big single player in the first half of next year. Yet to be seen. We got to suss out some venues and stuff. And then I know Ben wants to get enough teams terrain together over the next 12 months to do something. So you can probably expect some team events. I don't know if you know, but Hayden's got the market pretty wrapped up right now. So it'll be interesting to try and fit in there somewhere. So we won't be looking to do like super regularly, but at the same time, you're going to make the investment in the train make sense. So maybe a minimum of 2, maybe. So look out for that. In my personal dream would to be run like 1 big event per quarter would be my personal dream. But it's just like, to be honest, just an annual one, says Ben. We'll see about that, Ben. He says just an annual one, but he also wants to run New South Wales teams as well. So either they're either going to be New South Wales down on 40K teams, or they're going to be 2 different things. So we'll see about that. Ideally, I'd love to run quarterly, but that's kind of like at that point you need a dedicated events crew, if that makes sense, because not everyone in the down on 40K collective is always on for all the events. So obviously Pommy Ben's not going to be able to help a heap for events in Medowie, and then vice versa. So we kind of, if we want to take it up to that next level, we're going to have to get an events crew together, to be honest.
No, that's fair enough. A lot of hands make light work, right, or something like that. That's like an old saying. So the more people who can help out, it helps out a lot. But yeah,
maybe I'll win that $60 million lotto Thursday, and then I'll go full time down under 40K. So
there you go.
Fingers crossed for me, people.
Fingers crossed. Touch wood. Come on, baby. So I guess touching on that, you said so you don't get the chance to play a lot. And I guess moving on to the main topic per se of the podcast is, so why don't you get the chance to play games at all, Dale? Like, obviously, is it something that you just don't have the desire to play, or is it just work, or like what's the? I don't know. I guess maybe
basically just so if I played, I'd have to play. If I wanted to be competitive, like as in not totally shit at the game, I need to play about once a week, and then on top of that, you've got to go to events. And then when you add all the down under 40K stuff on top of that, it's kind of like that turns into a lot of time. So at one point, quite a while ago, I had to make the decision: was I going to spend my time playing games, or was I going to spend time making content, helping run events, doing behind the scenes stuff? And basically, every spare hour I get goes into doing down under 40K related stuff before it goes into playing games, if that makes sense. So. Yeah, it's just basically time management, and for me, down under 40K stuff is priority at this stage.
So why is it a priority? Like, why do you want to do something that? I mean, obviously, a selfless act per se is like it's not fulfilling. Is it something obviously fulfilling for you? Like you love, I guess, growing the community per se. But why do you want to do something for others instead of like maybe do something for your own selfish reasons of playing the game and getting competitive? Like, why do you decide to invest that time and resources into the community?
Well, the reason it started was there was a gap in the market for like there was no one running a league. It was actually a real weird time because I hadn't played much, and then COVID happened, And then so like there was just like this huge gap, and I didn't understand the history of like Moab and all this other stuff. Like there is events that have been running forever, but in my mind, there was just like an open market to move into. So that's where it first started, and then we just built it up from there. And then if you don't just keep going, it'll slowly chug to like a halt. So basically, I'm just a terrier for being a pest for down on 40k related stuff. So yeah, someone's got to do it basically.
Sure. So like it's something obviously you started initially. You were able to play games. I know I have actually seen you play a game of 40k. Believe it or not, Uprising 2022.
Uprising. That was my last competitive game. So there you go.
There you go. Was that your last competitive game? There you go. So almost like a year and a half ago.
I've played one ringer since then at an RTT I was TOing, and apart from that, I avoid. I don't even like playing ringers. I make sure there's another person there that can either play or drop, and I'm just there.
Sure. So do you like follow up on the rules and the release and stuff like that? Like, do you follow some stuff behind the scenes, or
that's hard because like when I first stopped playing, I still had a very good grasp. Like I could still TO. Like so, there's a difference between TO and judging. So like I consider myself a TO, if that makes sense. So I organize. I couldn't judge to save my life at this point. That's why we've currently got Ben Hader, who has been helping out with the judging. So the further it's moved away from me playing, and I used to play, I wasn't good, but I was trying to be as good as I could be. So I knew like all the little, I didn't use them in games but I knew like the intricacies of the rules. And now it's just like so far from that at this point. I actually do want to get back into the judging side, but like the gap of knowledge I'm gonna have to put a lot of effort in, if that makes sense. And it does get harder and harder to do stuff. Like the further we move away from me playing, the more I have to rely on other people to like I can have ideas, or I can like for instance at the major I designed all the maps. So if you didn't like them, I don't give a fuck. No. Actually, that took a lot of effort. But every single map I sent to Chris Wright to look over, and he just ripped them to shreds. And then we released a beta version of the maps to the community that also got ripped to shreds. So like, but when I was still playing 40k, I would have been confident enough to release them straight away. And then like I would have been confident that they wouldn't have made major changes, if that makes sense. But the further I move away from playing, it is getting harder and harder, if that makes sense. So that's why I lean on Ben a lot more, which is great because he's like one of the best judges in Australia, and his network of people he can talk to. If you can get him a rules question before an event, I don't think there's like maybe the Uprising boys can get a better answer, but his network of people to talk to is crazy, and get the right answer, get what the Europeans and what the Americans are doing. So I lean on him a lot. I lean on Ben Hader a lot, who's been coming and helping out with RTTs. So yeah. It's not easy. I do need to pull my finger out, to be honest.
Yeah, sure. That's fair. So, like, you don't follow any of the updates? Like, would you listen to Art of War Down Under or like one of the general 40k podcasts now still? Or?
No. So I do consume content, but not in the same way, if that makes sense. So I got a vibe. I can tell you that Voton are good now, and Tau just got a boost. Like I can talk about 40k. So when we do podcast stuff, I can't like ask really pertinent questions about lists, but I can ask about trends. Actually, I think in some ways it's an interesting way to come at content creation, because I genuinely do have questions, and I genuinely think I can come at it from an angle that means that if I understand it, a lot of other players understand it, and you don't, like it can go filter down a lot lower in the competitive scene, if that makes sense. But so I still do consume a lot of 40k content, and I've got a vibe of what's going on. But if you were to ask me how this charge works, into like I'm charging my guys and I want to heroic intervene, and can I do this? I would just walk away. Like I'll be like, I cannot help you. I'm sorry.
Nah, fair enough. So, but what is it going to take for you to play again, or like will you not play again until maybe circumstances change?
What would it take for me to play? Is this an intervention? Is this what this is, Sam?
It's a surprise. Oh, why did that want to know? I'm kidding.
Just like roll my garage door up, and there's like all the boys with a table. It's like, Dale, you've got to play. What would it take for me to play again? I'll probably play some 1K soon. I was actually, I'm going to get someone to make me a Drukhari 1K list. Apart from that, I would literally just need to like hand over all my down under 40K. Like if there's an option between running an event or playing an event, I'll always run the event, if that makes sense.
No, fair enough. Like you just
me.
love.
Can you clone me, Sam? Clone me, and I will live a second life. There you go.
There you go. You can have you're running the timeline of event running Dale, the TO Dale, and in another parallel universe, there's a game playing Dale. So
I think we need to go Marvel multiverse on my ass. There you go.
There you go. So obviously, so you mentioned before that you had a bunch of soccer mates and stuff like that. So did sort of 40K take over that soccer, I guess, a passion and hobby, or do you still try and keep up both?
Nah, so the how it worked was I played soccer every year of my life from 5 until about 28, 29. I can't remember exactly now. And then I did an MCL, which isn't a bad injury. It's just like the ACL is the bad ones. The MCL is a nice one. I think I was in a brace for 6 weeks, but that kind of like signified the end of my soccer career as far as I'm concerned. And that was kind of at the same trajectory of me playing, trying to play Drukhari at GG Maitland at ITC events. So I kind of just stopped playing soccer. I got a little bit too fat and I couldn't be bothered getting less fat. So 40K is the life for me now.
Yeah.
So I still got a heap of mates from soccer, but like I haven't been to like my local club game for 3 years now, if that makes sense.
Sure, and like so the 40K side of things, like the community aspects of it, I guess, have taken over from like what the soccer community was for you, like what's the interaction, the social elements, per se, as well as the competitive aspects.
I would say even more. So soccer was more of we were on a Facebook page where you talked about the lineups, and that was kind of it, and like banter. So like you uploaded videos. You used to go to the pub after games, and then you soccer. But I was never in like a bunch of like, you know, the painted 40K chat that everyone's in, or 20 chats that people in. I was never in a soccer chat where I talked about soccer with my mates all the time. Like there was not. It's definitely a different type of community, if that makes sense. It was it's a lot, because the soccer community is just basically about pissing up and playing soccer. And outside of those two things, that was it. Whereas the 40K community is a lot more than that. Like I said, with my Worgs guys, they still chat a lot of 40K, but outside of Ben, none of them play 40K. But like that chat never stops. There's like 40, like now it's just a live chat. And it's kind of like that as well, with the down under 40K stuff as well. So like they're definitely different communities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like look, a lot of 40K people and friends I made for it, they're just always willing to chat about various things. Like even like whenever the conversation stalls, you could always talk 40K, or just need to catch up and make sure everything's all good. So I was going to ask, so obviously, a lot of soccer, you talked about soccer and pissing up, and like I know you're quite a beer enthusiast and you quite enjoy a beverage. So like, what are some other hobbies and interests you have? I know you're a UFC fan, and I believe also an NFL fan, if I'm not mistaken.
NFL, not so much, but yeah, huge. I get combat sports in general, so a lot of UFC, but basically all the MMA I follow, and then a little bit of Muay Thai, a little bit of Jiu-Jitsu, a little bit of boxing. So I actually consume more MMA content than I do 40K content at this point, like as far as podcasts go. So I watch that most week. Like I don't do any of it. I kind of do have a desire to join a gym just to get less fat, but I also have no desire to get punched in the face. So like those two things kind of conflict, or even get kicked in the leg even. So yeah, just purely from a like a spectator stance, I guess you'd say. And I love arguing with people on Facebook about it and just telling them they're casuals. That's a big thing I'm a lot meaner in the MMA community than I am in the 40K community. So I don't know if anyone's my Facebook friends, they might see some of it filter onto their timeline.
You just release all your toxicity on the world in the Facebook UFC threads and post comments.
Yeah, that's about it. Eh? But no, I genuinely love it. I watch it most weekends. I follow the Aussie fighters, and then you got your favorite other fighters. Yeah, no, it's really good. I enjoyed it a lot. It's actually kind of similar to 40K in the sense of like with 40K is just so as a contest, it's like so you got like 20 different army types, and like it's not rock paper scissors. It's not like soccer or NFL where you've got your 11v11, and it's kind of a very similar thing. MMA is just like you got your different arts, and like you can get two totally different. Like it'd be like a shooter in a close combat list, and they're like this. It'd be like a stand up guy and a jiu-jitsu guy. Like it's very eclectic and how it comes together. So it does have a little similarity in that way.
Yeah, the styles and philosophies of things and how things work. It's always interesting to see. Chess with dire physical consequences is the famous Joe Rogan quote.
Yep, that is it.
Yeah, there you go. So that's it's always good to watch from time to time. Killing it. So we got a question from the chat.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Also, you go Dale. Go Dale. No, you ask first.
I was going to say, I know you watch a little bit. Who's your current go-to favorite fighter?
Oh, I still have a big hard on for Robert Whittaker. I just love him. He's like such a humble, good dude.
Who can't love Rob? Who can't love Rob?
And then Alexander Volkanovski, like obviously another Australian dude, but he's always just.
I've got a story about Rob. If you want to hear it.
All right, tell us a story about Robert Whittaker.
So it was him versus Izzy. And this is 50,000 people in Melbourne. Rob had the belt. Izzy, who's a New Zealand kickboxer, he was challenging him. And I was sitting in the pub. This is before I was too stingy back in the day to pay for any pay-per-views or know how to stream it illegally. So I used to go to the pub, and because like this is no one. I talked to a few blokes about MMA, but I don't like have any friends. I do now actually, but back in the day, I didn't have any people I watched it with. So I just went to the pub, sat down, and then I had this booth to myself. And then I had some people come and ask if they could sit with me. I was like, yeah, that's fine. But then they were the dreaded MMA casual, and I just had to listen to them to talk about Conor McGregor for like 2 hours leading up to Rob's fight. So I was on edge, and then Rob got absolutely starched by Izzy. I know you remember that. And I just stood up. The pub was full because the pubs pack out for these big pay-per-view events. And I was just like, I just stood up. I was like up the front. I was like, fuck, and just stormed out like had a full-blown hissy fit. Everyone else is in there just like, yeah, and I was just out of there. I was in my car within about 3 minutes, just gripping the steering wheel, fuming. So yes, I love Rob too. There you go.
Oh, he's also like behind the scenes, like from all accounts, he's a big nerd that plays a bunch of video games like
he loves
Doom
Skyrim.
and stuff like that. Yeah, all those fun stuff. So it's always just fun to see. I don't know.
There's a video of him online with his dad. He's like downloading all of his mods. Have you seen this one? He's downloading all of his Skyrim mods, and like he's got this mad setup. He's got sponsors and everything, and his dad's sitting next to him. And as he's like clicking on the mods, his dad's like, "Is this a game? Are you playing the game?" And but yeah, uber nerd, love Rob.
Oh, gotta love Rob. So, but other than that, I don't know, I like the personality. He's a good dude, and like I loved Izzy for a long time as well. Like he was a bit of a boring champion per se, not as stylistically fun. I still remember the Izzy versus
Romero is what you're gonna say.
No, not Romero, the chubby dude. What was his? Oh, yeah, I can't remember the guy's name. He sort of fell off the cliff.
Gastelum.
Yeah, Kelvin Gastelum. Like, was an amazing fight. Like,
yeah, that was all time.
Was like,
I thought you were going the other way. I thought you were talking about his
no, but then like, it was just plummeted from there. So then eventually got beat. But look, we're not here to talk about UFC and stuff like that. We have a question in chat from Aiden asking. So, going back to soccer. So, who's your favorite in the A League and EPL, so the Premier League? Do you have some favorite teams?
So obviously the Jets. The thing that's about the A League, it's not like the NRL for anyone that does it. Like you know how NRL everyone just picks their team, and I swear it was like whatever your favorite animal was when you were in like preschool or elementary school. Because I remember like everyone in Bulladilla, like we had a Shark supporter, we had a Storm supporter, we had a Knights supporter. Hardly anyone supported the Knights. But in soccer, you go for your local team because you want to go watch them play live. So obviously it's the Jets. Haven't been to a Jets in quite a while. I got a bit burnt in the grand final. I don't know if you probably this is just turning into me being salty, this podcast. In the grand final, so VAR was instituted in the grand final, and they scored an offside goal. It was Melbourne victory against us, and for some reason VAR just stopped working. So this offside goal happens. We all see it's offside, and apparently they couldn't look at the VAR, and then they went and won the game 1-0. That was a grand final. So I was offered it by then. But up to that point, I'd been going to games for like 8 years straight. My new current passion is so in England, it's Newcastle, because that's where my grandparents are from. But my new current passion from 2 seasons ago was to follow Ange Postecoglou when he went to Celtic. So right now I'm pretty deep into the Tottenham stuff, because if anyone doesn't know, he went from Japan to Celtic. He won 6 out of the 5 trophies at Celtic, and then he got poached to go. And when he went to Celtic, everyone in Scotland said, "Who's this Aussie no hoper from Japan? He'll never do anything. He's going to get sacked." And then he just killed it at Celtic. Then he went to the Premier League, and then everyone in the Premier League are even bigger snobs than the Scottish. And then they're like, "Who's this Aussie bloke from Scotland? He's going to get sacked." And he might, but currently he's sitting second in the Premier League behind Man City by 1 point and hasn't lost a game. He hasn't lost a home game in 51 matches. He hasn't lost a home game since his time in Japan. So anyways, I'm deep in the Ange stuff. That's more of I've never understood how, because some soccer fans are fans of like Messi and Ronaldo. They don't like support a team. But now I'm kind of like a weirdo like that too. I've just been following Ange for about 3 years.
No, that's totally fair. And like, he's obviously, if you ever mentioned, he's an Australian guy, and sort of had a weird upbringing and some fun content on YouTube about how his upbringing and stuff like that. There was a funny YouTube clip, like an interview from years ago, of Craig Foster, famous soccer player, where Ange Postecoglou just cussed him out essentially, and he was almost like, I would say, cancelled per se by the Australian football, and sort of built his way up all the way from there. It's exciting to see him go well. So unfortunately, that Tottenham beat Liverpool over the weekend, which is my favourite Premier League team, just from history and stuff like that. But it's good to see, and I understand that relationship from a manager's perspective, because like back in the day, I was a fan of Dortmund, like Borussia Dortmund. I still am. So like my favourite German team per se, and like I loved Jurgen Klopp. And then like whenever he went over to Liverpool, it was great. It's like a mending of both fun things. So yeah. Anyways, good times. We'll talk soccer chat later. I'm sure there's plenty of soccer chat that does happen in the Down on the 40K Discord. I know there was a fantasy football league. I don't know if it's still going on, but maybe it is. I know Cal was a big fan. Benny Wales is a big fan.
Cal's a very active member on the Discord. He gets at it.
Absolutely, all sports by the sounds of things. So no, it's good. So obviously you talked before about backtracking to Warhammer. I know you have to backtrack, but you have a young child. So any plans to try and get?
There you go.
Son, there you go, son. I was trying to make sure. I was like, I wasn't sure. Are you going to try and influence your son to get into Warhammer and 40K, or are you going to try and keep it your own thing?
I just want him to do whatever he wants. So as a kid, I was always played the sports, but always had the nerd side to me as well. I was dual nerd / sport. So kind of, I'm just happy to do whatever he wants, if that makes sense. I'm going to introduce him to the sports I like, and then we'll see what direction he goes. But I don't know. That's a big thing. The 40K community might lose me to whatever Lincoln decides to do. So if he's like, I might end up being a coach or something in a few years. So we'll see. So fingers crossed, 40K.
Fingers crossed. We'll just try and slowly influence him, get him to paint some models on the way, and get him involved in the lore and see how you go. That's actually another thing I was going to say. Is, do you still try and paint or like read much of the lore for Warhammer at all, or do those things don't really interest you at all? It was more the game.
So I've only ever painted to get models on the table. I don't dislike painting. Imperial Guard. We'll see. What about the bondage elves? He could be, anyways. Comp AO. Ben Way in the chat, he'll be a comp AOS player. Don't wish such things upon me, Ben Way. That is pretty brutal. I won't comment on that. So what was the question? The boys are distracting me. Sorry, Sam.
So, what was I going to say? All right, what was I going to say? I can't remember.
They're derailing us, Sam. They're sabotaging us. Anyone in the chat? What were we talking?
Oh, sorry, painting and like lore. So what was like? Yeah,
I appreciate well painted models. I would be embarrassed to put some of the models that I see on tables down. Not that I'm a good painter, but you can tell when effort's been put in. Let's put it that way. And so I do like to have a nice looking army. I've paid a little bit of money to get some elves commissioned because I was a bit too wussy to try and paint witch skin. I couldn't. I did all my racks by myself because they're just messy. But yeah, no, I'm not painting for enjoyment, if that makes sense. But yeah, I like a good looking army or a not crap looking army. Let's put it that way.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. Because sometimes people they can't, I guess, play the game, and that's all something for myself. I guess looking in the future, as I look, if I don't get to play as much, I still enjoy the painting side of things and like get army collections. So I look that's something I'll maybe deviate time into. So, but I was curious if you get the chance to do the same thing. But I guess the community sort of filled that hole for you.
I would comment. One of the things that I have shifted, like to still stay involved, I guess, and I've become a bit more of a fan, I guess you'd say, of like tournament goers, if that makes sense. And it's a lot easier. It'd be a bit weird for me to go Chris Wright at the local RTT or whatever, that because I know him. Like it's not like you're supporting an actual sports person, but it's actually a lot easier when you either a state level or a nationalistic level. So like when Australia went to the WTC, that was really easy to follow results, to support them like an actual sporting team. So the last 2 WTCs, I've really enjoyed doing that. When Matt Morrisoli was over at the LVO, and I think he was versing the Snake. I said it, the Snake, Naden. That's a clip that. At the quarterfinals, I was like rooting for him all the way through, and the New Zealand boys. I'm pretty sure Finn Decker was over there at the time. So that's easy. When the New South Wales boys go to ATC, that's easy again. So it's really when it's not just a weird dynamic about like you're cheerleading for a player at your local store, but it's actually really easy to follow 40K as a I guess you'd say a fan. When there's like teams or like tribalism, if that makes sense. So that's one way I've definitely stayed a little bit more intact in with the game.
No, that's completely fair. So I guess, would you have any advice for people? So obviously you have your own ways of staying involved with the hobby and the community per se, and talking to friends and stuff like that. But would you have any advice for anyone who's, for whatever circumstance or reasons, unable to play, or maybe being as involved as they once were, like to try and stay involved? Like, is there any advice you would give maybe to, I guess, new parents who obviously their kid does take quite a bit of time, or they're going through the various joys of life, so buying a house, moving, whatever happens?
If you're struggling, because it is a big time commitment to like do a whole day at an RTD, I'd just say just do everything else. I still do. I basically there was quite a few times where I would go out to Maitland. They're just about to have their RTT, and I'd drive out there 40 minutes, and I'd just have breakfast with the boys, and then they'd all like go in to play the games, and I'd go back home because I had something to do. So just do everything else. Stay in all your chats. Listen to your content. Your content's a big, so all your podcasts and your YouTubes, whatever, however you do it, that's a big way for you to still be in touch with the competitive side, because obviously you're not playing, but if you still want to have opinions on stuff, you can listen to Nick Nadavardi do like countless hours of podcasts and then just regurgitate his opinions in your chat and seem knowledgeable. Like, I'd say that. I'd say watching it on Twitch and on YouTube. So we got Scotty D49 and the Terrestralis network. He's streaming a heap of Aussie 40K content, and he also streams, does reviews of the Australian ITC, all that type of stuff. You can get in there. He's actually got his own little community. Whenever he's streaming, he's got his guys in there chatting. So that's a great way to follow along. You'll see just like the earlier stages, he likes to put interesting armies on. Then later on, he puts the guys that are doing well at the tournament. So you'll see recurring characters, Josh Brody, Chris Wright, all those people. You'll end up like getting to know the good players around. What else would I say? I guess however you consume your media, just keep consuming it, and that leads you. Otherwise, you're just a bloke in a chat that has nothing to add, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And like, so we got Aiden as well chatting. He goes, play 40k because you want to and because you love the game. If you like the game but don't love it, find a way to make it work. Otherwise, it's not for you. But that doesn't mean the community isn't great. Completely agree. But there's definitely times which the game and the meta per se is not great. Like look, beginning of 10th edition, the meta you could argue wasn't great. So you just try and do other things, like you play other games, or you use chat or paint or interact. Like I think the people that are drawn to 40k are generally very lovely people and like friends for life I've established personally, and always chat to them irrespective of if we're played a game or not recently and stuff like that. So yeah, completely agree. And just a small correction there, Astralis tabletop wargaming.
What did I say?
Terra Astralis, like like a star. It's all good. So yeah, Astralis.
That's pretty good for me. I'm doing pretty well, just quietly.
Yeah, it's getting late for you, buddy. So I understand. So it's all good, and I appreciate you stay up late for this one. So, but before we wrap things up, Dale, did you have any final plugs or shout outs you want to have before we close things up?
I've got a million plugs, mate.
Go for it. So what do you have to say?
Firstly, we've got our own dice for sale, and they are now on the Etsy store. So if you're listening and you're not a local, because we've got a bunch, we're selling at the Sydney RTT and the Medowie RTT, but now we've got them on Etsy at D6 Designs AU. So we got them shipped over. The Dice King got us, I think we got 1,000 made. It's got a little logo on it on the. Have you bought any, Sam?
I haven't bought.
You wait for me to send them to you. You want some pro bono, don't you? You want to.
So look, I don't have any. So I haven't got any down on the 40k dice physically on me, but all my ACT dice and all my Miracle dice for sisters and like all the ANZ TC dice I've done by D6 Designs AU, and I love them. Like I just need batches of them, but I haven't got any down on the 40k dice just yet. I haven't been anywhere close, so I've got to get some.
I'll do you some cost price stuff, mate. I'll send it.
There you go.
But anyways, you don't have to be anywhere. The point of the story is it's on Etsy. He delivers, I'm pretty sure, worldwide. So you just get on the Etsy store, use the code DU40KL for 10% off. So that's my first plug. Jump on the Discord. I think as far as Discords go in Australia, we've got a very active one. I don't think, not as active as some of the big American ones, I'm sure. You're currently running a huge TTS league, Sam. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so today was round 2 of the down on the 40k TTS league. So something a bit new. So 5-man teams have 2 weeks to play a game, and people have been pairing off. So it's got international now. We got some weirdos contact lost. I don't know. They're irrelevant. No,
I heard they can't put a list together to save their life. I heard if anyone's listening, check your list from Contact Lost. Comment, Sam. Do you have a comment on that?
Look, I think there are multiple people who don't know the difference between AM and PM, and even though the list sum is displayed days in advance, they still don't read them. And you know that old saying of like read the players pack? Yeah, people don't read those. I'm surprised. As someone who generally does read them legitimately, like people don't read them. I don't know. It's a funny thing. But anyways, irrespective, it's been a good thing to sort of establish the community. And it's been great to see so many people from nationally around. So Aiden, so shout out to him, buddy. A bunch of 2 or 3 teams from Tasmania. There's been 1 from Melbourne, like Victoria region, 1 from ACT, a couple from New South Wales, and 1 from Queensland. And we got Finn as well from New Zealand, as well as a Polish team which are playing in Australian time zones. Those mad lads.
That's nuts.
I really appreciate it.
I can't work that out.
So
how many players is that all up now?
So 65. So we've got 65 people playing.
Really?
So it's good. So 13 teams of 5, which is awesome. So it's been really good to see. And yeah, we'll try and keep it going. And there's another 3 rounds left, and then we'll see how things go. So maybe something every quarter or so. Maybe we'll see how it goes. And just keep people involved. I mean, get to connect with a bunch of people across the nation. And I forgot also, the Brisbane Low Rollers. So there's a team of 5 locals which are central around Brisbane. Essentially, they also got involved. So appreciate them. I'm sure I missed some people, but I appreciate everyone who's joined up and signed up. I really, really do appreciate it. It's been good to see. So look, it's not about needs. Hope others get to play TTS and get some teams experience, which is the best thing, and try out some new stuff. So yeah.
So that's on the Discord.
Yeah.
There's also lots of other stuff. We basically got to pay a little, I don't even know what you call, channel for every event in New South Wales. Basically, it's pretty active. Let's put it that way. The Facebook, you're probably watching this on Facebook or YouTube. Nearly everything we do is through Facebook because I'm a boomer and I don't know how to do anything else. I want to share New South Wales tournament community. That's a Facebook page. If you're not on that, that is the go-to Facebook page to it's got everything on it. I spam the crap out of it. Everyone spams it. If you want to play competitive 40K in New South Wales, you've got to be on that. Patreon. We have finally. Do you have like can you do effects or something? Can you give us a crowd roar, Sam?
Woo!
Ooh, very good. We officially don't lose money creating content. So thank you to all the Patreons. That was the only reason we created Patreon, so we didn't lose money. So that also gets you early access to any tickets we do, which is really good if you go to the Sydney RTT, because that sells out in like an hour normally, or any of our big events. I think we sold the major. We did 100 tickets in sub an hour and a half last time, so it's always a good one. So check out the Patreon. It's a good way to support us. It's just a tip jar. We don't hide anything behind it at this stage, but like I said, it does help us create content without losing lots of money every month. I'm looking at you, Sam. Sam is killing our bandwidth, everyone. What else? I've got a heap more. I want to shout out Pommy Ben. He's killing it in Sydney, running his RTTs. I don't know how he does it. Word on the street is we're going to get him an assistant TO for next year, because I know he's going to burn out. I've been telling him for over half a year he'll burn out if he doesn't watch out. So if you would like to help Pommy Ben run events, maybe at a tandem where someone plays 1 week or 1 month and he gets to actually play 3 games the next month and help out with setup, pack down, let us know. That'd be much appreciated. I want to shout out Pete the Pigeon and Catman. They're both the actual non-boomer technical guys of Down Under 40K that can actually do stuff. So without them, it would all grind to a halt very fast. And I'd like to shout out Aussie Ben, the only other bloke insane enough to decide to get involved and run Down Under 40K with me at the start. So thanks to him.
Yeah, absolute big shout. And last one, but emperor.cc. So if you have any hobby goods and stuff like that, major sponsor. So yeah,
I actually got more. I got more. You go. We go.
Go for it. Go for it.
The circuit,
go for it.
The Down Under 40K circuit's about to wrap up in November. We're going to be running an RTT in Sydney, an RTT in Medowie, and an RTT and New South Wales Masters all at the same time. Masters day 1. I've already talked to Diffie. We've got like exclusive BCP access. So all of them will get circuit points, even Masters. They'll all be scored as a 1-day RTT. So we got prizes for that. I think we're doing merch packs for everyone. We're doing Emperor vouchers for everyone. And we're doing flights and a ticket to Uprising Adelaide for the winner. I think it's going to come close to like $3,000 worth of prizes. So there's so many events going on. I think there's just been another GT announced. Feud, we'll be able to talk about that in the Discord or on the New South Wales tournament page. Heaps of events. I'd like to thank all the TOs that run events that are on the circuit. There's so many of them. I think a month ago we had 7 events in 1 month was on the circuit, which is crazy. So thanks to everyone doing that. What else have I got, Sam? I'm sure I've got something else.
No, one thing we didn't get to touch on though is the circuit. Like, what is the circuit? Like, obviously it's a Down Under 40K circuit per se. You acquire points, but like people aren't aware. What the hell does it mean? Like, it's just for events that are sponsored by Down Under 40K, you accrue points, and then yes, it's a ranking system per se for online internet points.
Yeah. So how it started was it was another legitimacy thing back in the day when we were trying to break into the RTT scene. We started running an event at Medowie, an event on the Central Coast, and we had a really good relationship with GG Maitland, and still do, obviously. So that was kind of like our little break-in area. And then there was all these Sydney guys doing their own thing, but we were trying to work out how are we going to convince people to travel to Medowie and the Central Coast to go to events that they've never heard of, especially the Sydney crew, because like there's a lot of them that travel. They're crazy. And the way we decided was we decided to start a circuit. And we would fly the winner of the circuit to Uprising Adelaide. So it was just our 3 RTTs to start with. So you can imagine we actually lost and how it works right now is everyone that wants to come in, it's the cost of 1 ticket goes in, and then you're on the circuit. And then after the first year of it running, everyone just asked to come on the circuit. So like everyone that's on the circuit, it's because they want to be on, they want to support what we do, and they want to get involved with like the prizes and the hype around it. Pretty cool. So we're doing first place faction awards and most attended, best sport, and best hobbyist. So pretty cool. Everyone gets points. It's run through the ITC, and it's 7 events, and you get your points for playing event. Bigger the event, and the higher the placing you get, the more points you get, and then you just add them all up at the end of the season. So it encourages people to play events. Basically, that's the whole idea of it, is to encourage tournament, tournament goers to get out and travel around, go to other areas, go to more RTTs, all that type of stuff.
No, perfect. Set great. That makes a lot of sense for people who aren't aware what the Down on 40K circuit is. So, any other final plugs or shout-outs?
Shout out to my missus for letting me do a podcast.
Shout out to Dale's missus.
And the other thing I'd say is this is kind of a call to the community, and with what I was talking about Sam earlier. At this point, we're just an avenue for people to express themselves to an extent. So we've currently got 3 podcasts on the network. If you want to make content and you think you've got an interesting angle to come at it from, message the page. If you'd like to write stuff, we can release it on the Facebook. I've actually got to ask a guy who did a full review of Battle in the Bush. I'm going to post that if he gives me permission in the next few days. We're just looking to just get creative stuff, come funnel into Down Under 40K, and get it out into the community at this point. So just get involved. That's all I'd say.
Absolutely. Sounds fantastic. Couldn't say it by myself. So no, really, really appreciate it, Dale. Thank you for your time, and be a bit of a different episode, but a nice chat and interview.
Yeah, we've got. How many people did we lose when we started talking about soccer coaches?
Stop it. Dale, don't bully my ego. We've kept consistent, right? It's about whoever listens along the way. So no, it's okay. Yeah. Look,
lovely.
It's all right. Go on tangents. So really, really appreciate it. Thank you for your time, and I'm sure I'll catch you soon at whatever the next event is, and see you in New South Wales region sometime.
Lovely. And a last shout out to all the content creators currently. So thanks, Sam, and thanks everyone else. I'm sure there's people I'm missing. All right, love you all. Hooroo.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a great night. Thank you for listening, and take care. Bye-bye.